Hi Becky, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of the League of Expat Writers on your blog. I am totally honored, and let me just say that this painting here, or this picture, is actually a photo from Belize, where my family lived for 1 year on the island of Ambergris Caye in Belize, Central America. So I have written a book called Freeways to Flip-Flops, A Family's Year of Gutsy Living on a Tropical Island. And since we're talking about expat life, I'm going to mention a couple of things that surprised me when we lived in Belize. Now, I have 3 teenage sons, and feeding them on this island was quite a challenge. So I'm going to read a little excerpt of the chapter 32 called Shopping Gringo Style. After running out of food every other day, I finally learned how to stock up gringo style. It had never occurred to me that hunting down food and getting enough of it to feed my hungry sons would become a full-time job. This was something I'd taken for granted in the US, and now I worried that my boys weren't getting enough nutrition to stay healthy, especially Alec, who seemed to be growing skinnier by the day. Jenny advised me to call Raul, her taxi driver. For $12.50 per hour, he'll drive you to each store in town, she said. He'll even help you load groceries into your boat. Yes, we did do our shopping by boat. I pulled out my Belizean cell phone, never sure whether a call would go through. I always was happy to hear a voice at the other end. Raul, I'm a friend of Jenny's. Are you free to take me around town grocery shopping? Sure, where are you? He asked. Outside Moncho's by the airport. Give me 8 minutes, he replied. Raul showed up in a burnt Sienna van, the same model all taxi drivers in San Pedro drove. I never understood how every burnt Sienna Toyota van ended up in San Pedro. In the US, most would have been crushed and used for scrap metal. I soon learned to tell Raul's taxi from the other taxis by his happy face bobbing in and out of the car whenever he drove past a relative or friend. He rarely showed up alone. Most of the time, another passenger or family member sat in the front passenger seat, forcing me to take the back bench. He dropped that person off somewhere while I tagged along. So Raul made shopping in bulk so much easier. He gave me a few tips, such as where to buy chicken for less money, although that meant stocking up on 25 pounds of chicken breasts at a time. Duke rarely came with me. He preferred to wait for my call, then drive the boat over to Dahlia's dock. All 3 of us carried cardboard boxes filled with canned goods, pasta, peanut butter, laundry detergent, meat, vegetables, and fruits, and loaded them onto our boat. Our freezer and cabinets were finally stocked with ground beef and chicken, and canned goods lined the shelves. The kids complained less about starving to death, even though we rarely purchased American snacks, such as cookies or chips. They were too expensive, so the boys filled up on mangoes, bananas, homemade peanut butter cookies, and carrot cake. So I also would like to share a little bit about going to see a dentist in Belize. Now, my middle son Alec needed braces, and we stopped at an American orthodontist before leaving for Belize, and he advised us to fly to Houston for the braces, which was absolutely ridiculous because you'd have to go back to Houston every month. Can you imagine what that would cost in airfare? So we finally decided to go see Dr. Milo, who is an orthodontist, qualified orthodontist in Belize City, but we would have to take a puddle jumper to get over there for the appointments, although that was much cheaper than flying to Houston. So here's what we experienced when we took Alec. Dr. Milo's waiting room looked normal and smelled sweet, like most Belizean floor cleaning products. The decor was minimalist, no coffee table, no magazines, no water dispenser, just plain white tile and white walls with one tired poster depicting a smiling Belizean kid with metal braces. A receptionist greeted us warmly, and I felt like the office had been opened just for us. She led us to an examination room where she asked Alec to lie on an antique foot pedal dental chair. I clutched my large envelope from California with state-of-the-art x-rays, including panoramic x-rays, detailed mathematical calculations of Alex's jawline in relation to his nose, and of course his cosmetic profile. All of these were taken a few days before we left the US, and I couldn't wait to see Dr. Milo's reaction to such advanced technology. We waited 10 minutes with a radio blaring from 2 speakers attached to opposite corners of the room. Apparently, the Prime Minister of Taiwan was on an official visit to Belize. The radio crackled irritatingly, making it difficult to hear anything but cheering crowds and the monotone voice of the announcer. Dr. Milo, dressed in khaki pants and a polo shirt, strolled in as though he'd been paged straight from home. After a brief handshake with each other, he proceeded to say something, but all I could hear was the president of Belize's speech on the radio. "Sorry, Dr. Milo," I said. "Could we turn the radio off, please?" "Of course," he said, smiling, "but today is a very important day for Belize. We have an official visit from the Prime Minister of Taiwan." He left the room, and I felt guilty about my request, but when Dr. Milo returned, he continued listening to the radio, just a tad lower in volume. "Here, Dr. Milo," I said, "Alex's recent x-rays, so we don't have to retake them." He took one out and held it above his head towards the dangling light bulb in the middle of the ceiling. "Where was the light panel that you clip x-rays onto?" "I shall need to make molds of Alex's teeth before I can come up with a diagnosis," he said, not even bothering to check the envelope. "Our California orthodontist said these x-rays are so advanced there's no need for molds," I said. "Can you give us an idea of how you propose to fix Alex's lack of incisor problem?" I continued. Duke gave me his "how dare you" look. "Well, we can pull out a couple of teeth," Dr. Milo said. Alex flinched in his seat. So the reason that I wanted to share this story with you is that we had this preconceived notion that no orthodontist in Belize could possibly do anything like an American orthodontist. And actually, let me finish the story quickly. Alec got his teeth done by an orthodontist on the island. And when we returned to the United States, I didn't tell the American orthodontist that his teeth had been fixed in Belize. I just said, "So how do his teeth look?" And he said, "They're fabulous. This is a great job. Whoever you went to did a fabulous job." So my point is, we always seem to judge people in other countries, especially third world countries, but most of them have trained in the US and their work is equally good. So thank you for listening. Thank you, Becky, for hosting me. And I hope that you enjoyed my stories. Thank you. Goodbye.